All right, I am told we can resume our meeting, so I will call us back to order. And I believe I was on agenda item number 5, reports to the Planning Commission and written communications. And we were going to start with you, Councilmember Dish, if you're ready.
I am so ready. And I wanted to report that I think the only thing of significant interest, but there may have been consent agenda items which Ms. Kelly often keeps track of better than I do, is that the council approved the Wagner rezoning, which was actually similar to the one that's tonight. A rezoning of 0.28 acres to permit 2 duplexes. And so that's really great. I'm glad that got approved. This was from our March 3rd meeting.
There's a note on the UDC stormwater.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did the changes for the UDC stormwater, what needs to be approved by the Washtenaw County, what's his name?
Resources.
Yeah, yeah. And then also the changes so that all the terms that we use to talk about solid waste are consistent. I won't give you the list.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Manager Kelly, do you have a report for us?
I do, which is to let you know that by the Planning Commission request, we have set up an opportunity for you to have a closed session with the city attorney related to special exception uses at the beginning of your next regular session on 5/19. A discussion item on the comprehensive plan implementation will also appear on that agenda, presentation by Manager Leonard. And this will be a pretty packed agenda, so we encourage any petition questions to be shared in advance so that staff can address them efficiently. And I would note that that is something that would always be useful to us, and you're welcome to do on any agenda. And finally, that your working session, your virtual working session on May 12th will include a Q&A with the Fire Marshal, Mr. Michael Redman, regarding fire code interactions with site plan reviews. This was also by request of the commission. We did try to get solid waste staff on that same agenda, but there was a conflict with the main development review person, so we'll try and cover that as best we can as planning staff, but we thought it may be useful enough to have the discussion with the fire marshal.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. Do any other commissioner officers or committee liaisons have anything to report at this time? Commissioner Norton.
Just that Planner Bennett and I attended the last Stormwater Advisory Group meeting. They're making progress. I don't think there's really anything to report right now.
Anyone else? Just want to note that I think Commissioner Lee and I are still scheduled to attend the Building Michigan Communities Conference up in Lansing next Tuesday and Wednesday. All right. So with that, that'll take us to agenda item number 6, public comment. So this is an opportunity for individuals to speak for up to 3 minutes on any issue that is not listed as a public hearing or a dedicated public comment period. So if you want to talk specifically about the Wagner project, wait till it comes to the agenda. Don't use this time. We'll first hear from those of you who are present in chambers, then we'll turn to remote participants. To speak remotely, press *9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of your phone number or by name for Zoom users. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. At the beginning of your comments, please state your name and address for all participants, whether here in chambers or on Zoom. Is there anyone present who'd like to address us at this time? Seeing none, Manager Kelly. Do we have remote participants?
There are no hands raised.
So I shall close the public hearing and go on to agenda item number 7, communication from commissioners. Is there any? Seeing none, we'll go on to agenda item number 8, public hearings scheduled for the next business meeting. Manager Kelly.
At your 519 meeting, there are 2 public hearings and 1 dedicated public comment item. The first public hearing is 805 Oxford Road Site Plan and Special Exception Use for City Planning Commission approval. This is a returning item. This is a proposal to construct a 3-story, approximately 23,500 square foot sorority with 47 beds and a surface parking lot with 8 spaces. The parcel is zoned R2B, and it includes a special exception use application required for sororities in the R2B district. It's in Ward 2. The second public hearing is for 850 Green Hills Drive for the Green Hills School. That is a special exception use and site plan for Planning Commission approval. It's a request to amend the existing special exception approval for a 545 student private school to increase that student body to 750 students, and also has a proposed site plan to construct 2 additions totaling 16,665 square feet, and includes also paving a fire access road around the building. The site is 30.5 acres, zoned R1B, and located also in Ward 2. And finally, you will see a project which may be familiar to some of you, which is the return of Village of Ann Arbor site plan for Planning Commission approval, main address 1710 Duvarin, but includes many other addresses. It's a site plan on 78 acres for 616 multifamily units, 136 for sale attached townhomes, and 480 rental apartments ranging from 1 to 3 bedrooms. A 10-acre portion of the site's former landfill area will remain undeveloped open space, with remediation occurring concurrent with the development. There is planned access via Duvarin Road, Pontiac Trail, and an internal connection to Leslie Park. It's zoned R4A and located in Ward 1.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. That takes us to agenda item number 9, unfinished business. There is none. On to agenda item 10A, regular business, 225 and 235 South Wagner Road rezoning, REZ 26-0005. A petition to rezone 2 residential parcels totaling .28 acres from R1D, single-family resident, to R2A, 2-family residential. Both lots are currently vacant. The applicant wishes to build 2 principal dwellings per parcel. It's in Ward 5. Staff recommendation is approval. We will not start with that. I will go to Manager Kelly. Manager Kelly.
I just wanted to note that although we did reach out to this applicant and request a presentation and presence at tonight's meeting, there was no response, unfortunately, so I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. That's new to me. That's great.
Sorry. Yeah, that was, I'm representing the organization,
Okay, there we are.
Okay, great. So we'll start with a petitioner presentation from the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. You can come up and, assuming their material is on the computer, they have what they need to present. No, there is nothing there, so we will find out. Oh, all right. Shall we allow you to talk to Manager Kelly for just a moment so that we can get ourselves together here? So we'll just take a 2-minute break so that you all can have a convo about what you might need. All right. Thank you all for rolling with us tonight. I appreciate your patience. I think we're ready now to hear from the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. And so we'll start with a petitioner presentation. That's 10 minutes. That'll be followed by a staff presentation. Then we will have a public hearing on this matter, and then the Planning Commission will have its deliberation. So with that, good evening.
Good evening. Sorry about that snafu. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but at any rate, the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust exists to help us put people in houses here in Ann Arbor. These are the people who work in Ann Arbor, nurses, teachers, librarians, lab techs, things like that, that can no longer afford to live in town here. We started with this vision of finding properties that we could utilize to basically increase the density of and allow families who are being priced out of our community to have a place that they could afford. The city has been able to help us with various creative ways to finance these to make sure that people can afford to purchase them. They go forward in perpetuity, and so that the people who buy these houses will own and be able to buy into our community, and that when they go to sell, they will realize a gain on their investment, but it won't be sort of the rampant run-ups that we see in Ann Arbor frequently, because we want to keep these affordable long-term as well. We've had hundreds of applicants looking for these homes. These are people that we meet every day in our travels around Ann Arbor. And as a builder, I have watched prices absolutely spiral. You know, things that when I started out building custom homes and things like that, if you had $500,000, I could build you a great home. And these days, it barely gets you a starter home with a production company, you know. And so we're really looking to combat that, because I've seen what happens in other communities when the people who actually make the communities run can no longer afford to live there, and it becomes this sort of like stratified area that it no longer really represents our country very well, you know, let alone really even what our city's mores are. This is our first, well, it's actually not our first, but these are our first group of homes that we're starting to build in this fashion. I was at some of the meetings where the people who did get these were awarded their home sites, and I can tell you that they were absolutely elated. These are people who never thought they would be able to have their dream of living in a place in Ann Arbor that they own. So as an aside, I once owned these two properties. I bought them for $25,000. The Ann Arbor Community Land Trust asked me to purchase them. I had an offer on the table from another party at the time. They asked me to sell it to them instead, and I sold each parcel for $40,000, which is, you know, considerably lower than what you can get most parcels for in Ann Arbor. I have subsequently joined the board of the organization. I believe strongly in what they're doing, and I know that from my own personal experience living here, that these are the type of things that really matter about the people that you meet in the community around you every day. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Except you want to introduce yourself, Doug Selby.
Yeah. Did I not do that? Sorry.
You didn't. I was going to ask you to do that at the end, but
okay. Yes, my name is Doug Selby. I'm sorry.
That's all right. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll call you back if we have questions. We'll turn now to...
Oh, can I make one additional point?
You still have time.
The footprint of each of these units, so, you know, the two homes is 1,100 and some square feet, 1,110 square feet, I think, for both units, which I can tell you from building homes is a very average footprint for a home in Ann Arbor, one home. So we don't think we're really maxing out the lots in any sense or making them, you know, bigger than what you would see normally being built in Ann Arbor. So that's just one small point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll now turn to Planner Mylene Cochran, who will give us our staff presentation.
Thank you. So I'd like to clarify, this is just the rezoning. There are no actual buildings being proposed right now, and these will not require site plan. They'll go through building permits. So this is just a rezoning right now, and it is proposed to rezone from R1D single family to R2A 2 family In total, the parcels are 0.2 acres. There's 2 of them, and they both front South Wagner Road, right across the street from Scioto Township. The parcels are currently vacant and have always been vacant, and the applicant is seeking the rezoning to build 2 principal dwelling units per parcel. This is the City of Ann Arbor Comprehensive Plan 2050 designates these parcels as residential future land use category, which recommends up to 3 units per parcel. So in general, the plan recommends higher density across the city and encourages a variety of housing types, as well as emphasizing affordability. The R2A zoning does support the density proposed. The location is near major transit corridors, and their existing commercial buildings are appropriate for additional density, and the development will have minimal impact on its neighbors. There are Ann Arbor area Transit Authority bus stops within about a quarter mile of these parcels. They're also near public open space, and staff does recommend approval. Thanks.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now have a public hearing, and then after the public hearing, the Planning Commission will have its deliberation. This is an opportunity for individuals, both present and online, to speak for up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present in chambers with us. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in chambers or remote, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who'd like to speak at this time? Yes, you can just come straight on up. You've got 3 lights and a timer there. The green light says you're good to go. The yellow light is about 30 seconds and you should wrap up, and the red light says please stop and cede the floor.
My name is Brian Alvarez, 215 South Wagner Road, and I disagree with the opinion that this is going to be a low-impact site for neighbors. Me and my neighbors are actually here represented today. First of all, I grew up in Ann Arbor, born and raised. I also am a recipient of Section 8 housing. I understand how valuable housing is in our community, especially for our, workers. There was a time where I couldn't afford to live in Ann Arbor, and I lived in Ipsy, and I just bust down here. So the majority of our concerns relates to the acre size. It was cited that this was a 2.8 acre size, and that's actually both lot sites. If you go to them, they're combined 2.8, which means one lot is 0.138 acres. There's no parking available. There's also no limits to how many residents can be in this, according to my understanding and the meeting that we had with Ms. Lorenz. So we have a lot of concerns about that. The parking, like I said, it's not going to be able to hold too many parking spots at all. I encourage people to look at this. Everywhere around this area is a single-family home. You're doubling our neighbors by approving this. This is already going to be a project that's, in the works. That's fine, but I am against the rezoning for sure. We have tax allocation concerns. This tax that are going to be paid for by these residents are going back to pay the loan and not going back into our city. I encourage everybody to, just figure out if I'm false, but this is the information that I've collected, and me and my wife, who's not able to be here. Again, this is single-family homes, and everywhere we fought this before with the city of trying to put high densities in what is conventionally a single-family home. So it just changes the characteristics, doubles our neighbors. There's concerns about the transparency of this organization, the sale of the lots. As mentioned before by Doug Selby, he bought them for $2,500. They were first sold, each lot was sold for $9,000, and I don't know who bought them. I do have records here, but I don't know the entities. $25,000 paid for these lots, and then they were sold to Ann Arbor, the board, A2CLT for $80,000. There's not transparency in this project. I don't have a lot of faith in it, and a lot of the notes that were taken from the meeting are inaccurate or misleading, especially the ones about the neighbors wanting sidewalks. We totally disagreed with that. So thank you for your time, and I encourage you to not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yep, come right on up. And if you don't mind, try speaking into the mic, because it does the recording as well. We can hear you, but sometimes the recording needs a little boost.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Krantz. I'm a resident at 249 South Wagner Road, along with my wife. I just want to echo Brian's comments. I think the board should reconsider the approval recommendation. I also agree with the general mission of the organization of the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. I'm very supportive of it. I was very excited when I saw that they were going to be developing on that lot. My main issue is with the rezoning to multi-family homes. Again, if you were to see this in person, you would be shocked at trying to fit what amounted to condominiums into this space. And I think it might be at odds with some of the goals of the organization broadly to encourage long-term residents of Ann Arbor, which is something that I deeply support. And I just think that single-family homes, which are the same structure throughout our neighborhood, throughout the area, would invite people to actually live there for a much longer period of time, raise their kids there. As it's currently laid out, 4 dwelling units in that space plus parking, it just doesn't seem to me to really allow for the type of family building that the Land Trust would like to promote. And then lastly, I just want to add a note about the construction plans. I just don't think that we've been given as residents clear indication of those construction plans. Brian's wife had noted in communications around concerns with runoff. There's a pronounced slope to the property. I'm also concerned both of our houses are on downward edges of that slope. So that in addition to the fact that Wagner Road is a heavily trafficked major road, we don't feel that the Land Trust has given us enough information on how they're going to mitigate the risks associated with that construction, as well as the timeline for construction. We do not have a current example other than the artist rendering that Doug had put up of what this could look like in practice, because none of the homes have been built yet. That's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who'd like to speak at this time? Manager Kelly, do we have remote participants?
We do. Adam Jiskevitz, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, my name is Adam Jiskevich, 1430 Las Vegas Drive. I support the Community Land Trust and their mission to provide housing for essential workers in our community, and I support this development on Wagner Road. As our comprehensive land use plan says, regarding the residential land use category, the primary use is single-family duplexes and triplexes permitted by right, with additional building types allowed where consistent with neighborhood form and scale. This is entirely consistent with the residential neighborhood form and scale. Duplexes and triplexes don't need to be huge buildings. In fact, these particular developments would be within the scale of what would be allowed as a single-family house. So adding more people into a neighborhood, more neighbors in a neighborhood, is entirely consistent with what we're trying to do in Ann Arbor to provide more housing, which will make housing more affordable throughout the city. And I completely support this. And I also support the proposed change to R1 and R2 zoning by the Community Land Trust to make these kinds of things by right throughout R1 and R2. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one other hand raised, which is phone number ending in 534. You have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Good evening. This is Tom Stolberg calling from 1202 Traver Street in the heart of Lower Town. I'd like to call in support of this rezoning. I've been a long-time supporter of the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. I want to remind people that there was a TIF approved for specific lots, and these two lots were included with that TIF approval. Also want to make a comment about the size of the lots. They're under 7,500 square feet. If we were rezoning from R1D to R2A and they were 7,500 square feet or larger, it would be possible to have 3 units on each of these lots. Given the lot size, as long as I'm correct, there was a caller who thought something different. But if I'm reading it correctly, the lot sizes would limit it to 2 units per lot. The goal of the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust is to build modest-sized homes that fit within the scale of the neighborhood. Generally, when you do a rezoning, they have a by right to build something different than that. But there's been a lot of representations made by the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust to the city and to the county in getting the TIF approval of the type of homes that they're going to build. So ordinarily, I'd be hesitant to just say here's by right, because then the R2A rights could say they could build anything. They could build something huge. But I think we have some limits built into the system here with that brownfield TIF, not brownfield, but the TIF approval. I want to remind people that this is not the only thing going for attainably priced home ownership. With some other programs, other opportunities for affordable housing that's rental. But in terms of indefinite, long-term housing for ownerships, we really need this type of thing to succeed. This is at the front end. There's a couple dozen lots that are included in this first batch that have been approved with the TIF. I believe some do not need rezonings, but apparently these do, given the lot size. So I hope that you'll approve this. I do have that one concern that I mentioned about, the by right, because you're not tied to a specific site plan here. But I feel that those concerns are mitigated by the other approvals and representations that have been made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stolberg.
There are no other hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. I'll close the public hearing and read the motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission recommends that the mayor and city council approve the rezoning of 225 and 235 South Wagner Road from R1D, Single Family Dwelling District, to R2A, Two Family Dwelling District. Moved by Commissioner Hammerschmidt, seconded by Commissioner Dish. We are in discussion, and I think Commissioner Dish wanted to go first.
Well, now I'm not so sure, but since I had my hand up, I will. I actually wanted to ask Mr. Selby one question of clarification. When you said, yeah, you can come up since I'm asking you, and we want people to hear what you say. When you said that it would be, each of the duplexes would be 1,110 square feet.
I can't say it's that exact number, but it's right around 1,100 square feet, just north of that.
So each of the duplexes would be that, and so it's like 575 square feet per.
Something like that.
That's all I wanted to understand. If it was each or, I just needed to unpack whether you meant that it was 4 times 1,100 or
No,
2 times 1,100. Yeah.
And the entire reason for this rezoning is that the second unit could then have 800 square feet, which allows us to have a second bedroom, which is what people really need for their kids.
So they would both have 2 bedrooms. These are
Well, I think
two.
one would have 3 and the other would have 2.
One would have 3 and one would have 2. Okay, that's great. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank
That's super helpful.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Any other commissioners?
actually had a little more than that.
Oh,
That was just my question for
sure.
Mr. Selby. But here's
Since
where
you
I-
have the floor,
Yes,
we'll let
thank
you continue, and then
So-
we'll go to Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, so I wanted to respond to a couple of the comments. First of all, I wanted to clarify that there is parking allowed on Wagner Street, yes? No. No. So, well, I guess I should have asked Mr. Selby where people will park. May I ask you another question? Yes.
There is a garage for each unit, and then there is an outdoor parking spot for each unit.
In
so-
the picture, there were the
Yes.
garages,
Yep,
yes.
so then there's a turnaround spot for each of them, so there would be, a place for a car outside and a car in the garage.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have that clarified. So I don't think that it is that there is no room for parking. It sounds like there's room for parking. I wanted to mention that a project like this will very likely be simply legal once the comprehensive land use plan is implemented. Now, I don't know that for sure because we haven't yet talked about minimum lot size per building, and those things are to come. But this is very much the kind of housing that the comprehensive land use plan aims to encourage. And it's what's hardest to get because single-family homes are a better deal for developers typically to build. And in this case, because the land is cheaper and because the Community Land Trust has the housing TIF, they're able to do this. Now, the tax impacts of a housing TIF are that the property taxes paid on these units, it is true, will not go to the city right away, but will go to reimburse eligible expenses to the developer. And when those eligible expenses are recouped by the developer, the property tax that the city receives will be a considerable increase over what these parcels are generating now, which is not very high because there's nothing on them, so they are just land. In terms of I would imagine that there are limits on how many people can live in these homes. I believe that was raised as a concern. So I'm going to kick that to staff and leave some more answers or questions or comments up to everyone else. And so staff, please, what would be the limit on how many people can live in these homes?
The way that we regulate occupancy for the zoning district would be a maximum of 4 unrelated people in one dwelling unit.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills.
So, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Dish, for starting to answer one of the questions that I had, which is about the TIF associated with it. I'm curious, and I don't know if this is a you question, if this is a staff question, about whether that is specific to the community land. It sounds like it's for a number of parcels, including this one, but presumably it's not something that runs with the land that another landowner it would be able to use. Do we know?
That would be a question for the applicant. We're just reviewing the rezoning, so we don't look at their financing.
Okay. Do you happen to know that about how the TIF works? If the rules on the TIF are that it's only for the community land trust, or that if this property were to be sold, that a future developer would be able to also claim the TIF credits?
No, my understanding is that they can sell the property, but it's still in the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust, so that affordability component stays with the property in perpetuity.
Okay.
So this is really complicated stuff.
I know.
My understanding is that and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is that the land trust owns the land.
Yeah.
The person buys the building.
Okay, got it. But I'm curious, though, about, because I've been on planning commission a while, sometimes projects don't work out, right? And land can get sold, right? And I'm just curious if the land itself were sold to someone else who now can build a duplex, not necessarily the plans that you showed, because we're talking about the rezoning, not the building. I'm curious if someone else could build a duplex that doesn't look like that's larger, that so long as it meets the zoning, if they are also eligible for TIF.
No, I don't believe that is the case at all.
Okay.
So, the TIF doesn't run with the land as much as it runs with the project and the community land trust that owns that land.
Okay, super.
Yes, and, I believe that there's 2 rezonings right down the street in the 300 block recently too, so it's not like this is an unusual thing.
Yeah. And I appreciated that, thanks. And usually we don't deal with the TIF side, but it's important in my mind, in part, because I think it's true that this is going to come up, I think, when we work on rezonings in other areas about a duplex could have 6 bedrooms each. And that plays very differently. Now, the reason, in part, that this is unlikely to have 6, and sorry, these aren't questions for you, so you don't feel like you need to stand. The reason that I think that's unlikely here is that the parcel is pretty small, and because of the setbacks, it's pretty hamstrung in terms of where it can go. And actually, I think my reading of the staff report, and this is a comment, but I want staff to double check me, the front setbacks are the same. So in its current, it looks like current zoning and future zoning that we're taking up is 25 feet. Side setbacks, the minimum total of 2 sides is 6 feet. So I think, though, in the R2A, it needs to be 5 feet on each side. So 10 feet now of additional green space between buildings rather than a combined 6 feet. And the rear setbacks are larger. So currently, somebody could build a big single-family home all the way up to 20 feet. So I think and that's hamstringing kind of what is on that property. And am I reading that right? And staff, particularly the side stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that the setbacks actually are meaning that there could be less building on that space in rezoning than what is currently allowed. And I also get the comment, and this is going to come up again and again, which is why I'm hammering on it, is like, this parcel is just barely big enough for the duplexes. Other parcels could allow for a lot more, and so you could imagine 6-bedroom duplexes, and that is a different character.
No, sorry. This time is reserved for Commissioner Mills, and if Commissioner Mills would like to ask you a question, Commissioner Mills may, but sorry.
I'm curious if understanding this, if I got something wrong. So if there is something.
Just about the unrelated people.
Yeah.
The community land trust would not allow for people to be renting these out, so you wouldn't have 4 unrelated people. And if they want to sell them, that's fine, but we are looking for people who are gainfully employed in Ann Arbor and have a family situation going on.
Awesome. And actually, so additional protection in this particular place. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind when we're rezoning other things is that they could be sold to somebody who doesn't have those stipulations. And so that's why when we rezone something, it runs with the land. And so it's not necessarily today's applicant. It could be someone that they sell on. And again, the fact that there's a TIF actually suggests to me that there's an additional relationship going on with the city that gives me a little bit more comfort that this is not going to change hands. But otherwise, I think this is something that we'll want to consider.
It's a greater level of protection than it stays as single-family homes.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Okay, so that's how I feel, in terms of how much would be built. I really appreciate your comments about what the public comment, the participation meeting, and so I pulled it up. What it says is discussion of the lack of sidewalks on Wagner. Some residents felt they were not necessary, and some would like to have sidewalks. I don't know if that, so no one wanted to pay directly for sidewalks. So I'm curious, and actually, I see your names of the folks that are here, recorded on here. So you are 2, 3, presumably 3 of the 6 people that were recorded there. I'm curious, what part of that is inaccurate from your perspective? If that's, and it's okay for me to ask them.
I mean, you have already asked them, so for me to
just want to
deny
make sure that it's okay.
them would not work. But
Okay.
we shall do this briefly, please.
Yes, very briefly.
So that is, it's not represented by our neighbors. We actually are the neighbors that live on that block, and we were against this. So it's not a representation of what we said in that meeting. It's inaccurate, as some of the other comments are misleading. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just, there were a number of folks that attended, so I was curious about that, and this is one of the, we don't have this happen very often that people pull this up, so I'm not sure what to make of that, to be really honest. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Commissioner Lee.
Thank you. First off, to the folks that came to speak, thank you for, it's not easy to come here, make your way here, so just wanted to thank you for coming here. To the petitioner, just a question to talk about runoffs as it relates to some of the designs, as it relates to stormwater. Lead us through your thinking around that.
I know this because I paid for the original topographic survey and had gone through, the clearing the property of invasives and so forth, but it does go down quite a bit to Wagner Road, so it's kind of a big hill there. At the bottom, there's a pretty wide flat spot, and the project encompasses kind of cutting out that spot where people would enter the garage and that, so that we're basically cutting the foundations into the hill. There is a storm drain there, so presumably there would be a grate that goes to the storm drain.
Gotcha. It's almost like a bioswale in essence, or something like.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was planning, is to be a little collection area that would go into the storm drain.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then just asking about timeline. I know some of the residents asked that they did not have a real good visibility into the timeline of things. Can you lead us?
I wish I had better visibility myself, and all of us do. It's, kind of getting these projects off the ground is frequently something as complicated as this too, in terms of all the different entities is difficult. But we're hoping soon. I mean, we're hoping in the next, we break ground in the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. And then from after groundbreaking, what is your kind of estimation of timeline?
We did a lot of looking into how to make these affordable. It turned out that hiring Norfolk Homes to do them, they had been doing affordable homes in Jackson and other communities around here.
Sure.
They have a whole process around it. It's pretty good. So, they're 4 months, and I don't think anybody can beat that.
Got it. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. We'll hear from Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you. I just want to make sure with staff that I'm understanding this. This is just a rezoning. I am trying very hard to pretend like I didn't even see that picture, because we're talking about rezoning the property, not anything about what's going to go on it.
This is just a rezoning.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So regardless, for me, I think that this is perfectly appropriate based on the comprehensive plan that we just passed and our goals for the city. So while I hope that that is what happens and that the Community Land Trust can build what they would like to build, we are talking about that in perpetuity unless it gets rezoned again, we would be able to allow a duplex. And I think Commissioner Mills sort of laid it out, like they can't be big, like they are constrained. So I think for me, mostly because of the comprehensive plan, this feels like something that's a no-brainer. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hammerschmidt. Commissioner Adams.
Just to echo those comments and maybe elaborate a bit. So the question before us tonight is whether we should rezone the property. And I have a 6-factor legal standard for that's focused entirely on whether the zoning category that I'm being asked to change to is appropriate. It doesn't ask me to make any judgments about the project, the developer, anything like that. I'm just being asked this narrow question, 6 factors, does the rezoning do these things? And for that reason, and again, I want to thank all of you for coming out and sharing your views. A lot of it I can't really take into account when I look at that, because I'm just looking at that legal change, right? So I think R2A zoning is appropriate for the site. It's appropriate because the comprehensive plan says it's appropriate. I also think, I have duplexes near my house that are on small lots, all under 0.2 of an acre. And they work just fine. So I'll be supporting this tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. We'll hear from Commissioner Lee again.
Just as a procedural clarification, as this is a rezoning, we would vote on it if the recommendation would advance the city council, and there would be 2 hearings. Is that correct, staff? Okay, so just from a timeline clarification standpoint, we are an advising body on this particular matter. This advances to city council for 2 readings. And so just wanted to make sure that that was clear for everybody, including Mr. Selby and the Ann Arbor Land Trust. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Norton or Weatherby? All right. Are we ready to vote? Okay. Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Norton,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Weatherby,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Dish,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
That carries unanimously.
Thank you, and good luck. That takes us to 10B, regular business, 700 North Main Street. 700 North Main Street rezoning and area plan, REZ 26-002. An application to rezone a 52,000 square foot parcel from R4C, multiple family dwelling, to R4E, multiple family dwelling, with conditions to enable future development of a 6-story residential building with 64 apartments. The offered condition is a 75-foot height maximum. This is in Ward 1, and staff recommends approval. We'll start with a petitioner presentation. So you all can come up. You'll have 10 minutes. Mr. Moore, you've been here before, but you have a green light when you're good to go, yellow when you should wrap it up, and red when you should stop. After your presentation, we'll hear from Planner DeLeo, and then we'll have a public hearing, and then the Planning Commission will have its discussion. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Brad Moore with J. Bradley Moore and Associates Architects. I'm the associate architect on this project. I'm here tonight with the lead architect and the civil engineer who will take up part of this presentation. I'm going to start with just a brief summary. Trowbridge Homes has a previous project approved on this site, which was luxury townhomes, pushing $1 million. And they have since decided that it's a better community benefit to pursue something that has been called missing mill housing. I'm sure Mr. Selby understands that market, but build apartments that are somewhere between 480 and 1,000 square feet that are much more attainable to workforce housing in Ann Arbor. These dwellings would be rental, and they would sit on top of partially subterranean parking. This is a hilly site, so the building would be pushed into the site, pushing the garage levels largely below grade. And so we have a rezoning before you, and I know it's just a rezoning, it's not a site plan, but we have begun crafting potential building for the site, which we presented at our community engagement meeting to show how we would use the zoning. And we believe that a 75-foot height cap gives the community some comfort that we're not going to build a high-rise because there is no height limit inherent in the R4E zoning. And I believe there's been other recent projects where that 75-foot cap has been acceptable as a cap in the R4E zoning. The site is such that the north end is encumbered by floodplain and floodway, which requires us to shift the mass of the building towards the south side of the site. It happens to be the narrow pinch point of the site because the property lines on the east and west aren't parallel. They kind of converge, and therefore we need a variance on setbacks, and that's why Alexis DeLeo has told us that we need to come here first, get the rezoning, then get the variance, and then get the site plan. So I will let our civil engineer, Brian, come up and talk a little bit about the site and the floodplains and access to Main Street, and then Mr. Bogart will come up and talk about some concept sketches we've been doing.
Hello, I'm Brian Miskiner from Umler Group. And how come, does this go up on the TV?
I'm inquiring about it right now. Mr. Chair, I can pause the time if you would like.
Please do. Oh, it's on the screen.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah.
It's okay. We have it at the back of it.
Okay. Well, you can gain some idea of the amount of relief there is between the slope there. The difference between the first driveway and the second driveway is 1 story. So we got a basement, and then we got a first floor garage, and that takes up most of that space. And then we have a site. This is a previously approved site, so it's a little further developed than most sites, and but we'll skip that. If we look on the south side, the south is to the right. South is to the right, and north is to the left. We got the 2 entrances. We have an entrance, man entrance here on the the entrance here. Dang thing. And then we have an entrance up there. We have a traffic study we conducted as a multimodal traffic study, and it was a very low impact. And the impact of the right-of-way drive operations is expected to have a negligible impact on the adjacent road network. Additional traffic, 4 a.m., 8 p.m. on 4th Ave and Summit Street intersection need to be accommodated and with the existing roadway. Let's see. And just a brief discussion on the floodplain. The reason the building, like Brad said, is so wedged over in the corner is due to the floodplain and the floodway. The black 2 lines down the middle of the page are the current floodway and floodplain. And then the red line is a developed floodplain previously proposed. And the floodplain is in about 6 months it will move down to the proposed area. Melissa McNerney has been. I've been in touch with her, and she agrees. But you can see how that floodplain really pushes it to the back, and the floodway won't change. So that's the end of my presentation, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alex Pogartz. I'm the architect for the petitioner. As been mentioned already, we have a proposal in our design for 64 units in the project and 4 stories of residential construction with 2 floors of parking below that. The units sizes are primarily 912 square feet for the 1-bedroom units, and we have 8 studio units within the building, which as well, those units are under 600 feet. We have made an effort to retain the building under the maximum allowable height. We have our floor area ratio on this proposal that we've put together today is 156%, whereas 200% floor area ratio is allowed. So we're below the floor area ratio. We are frankly very excited about the building. We look forward to the opportunity to bring our final drawings in for approval if this is advanced further on zoning. We have made an effort to commit to materials that will be long and enduring to the exterior of the property, and we have given respect to our neighbors to the east by not having any terraces off the units, off to the back to those residences. So it does allow them to retain their privacy. We will have a rooftop terrace on the building and a few balconies forward. So in really brief, that is the concept of our building. I would be happy to answer any questions the members might have.
Great, thank you. We'll call you back up if we do. With that, we'll turn to the staff presentation from Planner DeLeo, when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Before you tonight is the 700 North Main Street rezoning and area plan. 700 North Main Street is a vacant 5,200 square foot site. It's about 1.25 acres. It is currently zoned R4C, and it is within the floodplain management overlay district. As noted tonight, the petitioner requests rezoning to R4E and offers a voluntary condition to limit the maximum height permitted to 75 feet. The rezoning is accompanied by an area plan that demonstrates a 6-story residential building with 60-some apartments in it and 2 parking garage levels. Area plans are required with an amendment to the zoning map unless a site plan is proposed to immediately develop the land. Area plans show that the permitted uses and the permitted development consistent with the proposed zoning designation will be compatible with the city's adopted plans and policies. They remain valid until replaced by an approved plat or site plan or 3 years. This contemplated development is similar, as mentioned, to a previously approved site plan for a building of about the same size, but with about half as many units. This rezoning will enable more dwelling units, although each would be smaller than the previously approved ones, within the same building as previously approved because of the significant difference in minimum lot area per dwelling unit standards between the R4C and E districts. The R4C district yields a maximum density of 20 dwelling units per acre, while the R4E district yields a maximum density of 75 dwelling units per acre. The petition for rezoning, which is in the packet, requests the rezoning for increased density to develop multiple family residential on the site, provide more housing opportunities. It is supported and recommended by the Comprehensive Plan 2050 and the goals for affordable housing, housing diversity, and transit-oriented housing. The comp plan designates the transition category for the future land use of this site. That is a category intended to be a mixed-use area with a flexible blend of residential, commercial, and industrial spaces, supporting moderate to higher density housing to enhance walkability, encourage transit use, and strengthen commercial activity within key nodes and corridors. A comparison chart is provided in the zoning ordinance, in the staff report, of some of the zoning requirements between the existing R4C and the proposed R4E. Staff report covers the differences in lot area per dwelling unit, height, front setback, side setback, and so forth. Close to wrapping it up, this rezoning has been reviewed by a variety of staff departments of our development review team. There are no outstanding issues or comments related to the proposed rezoning. I would only add, in addition to Mr. Biskner's presentation on the floodplain lines are changing because of the berm opening in Allen Creek into the Huron River. That has done, but it does take a while to remap the floodplains. But that is why the floodplain maps are being redone, and that's why the floodway and the floodplain are moving. It's because of the berm opening project that was done a couple years ago. Staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning to R4E with conditions.
Thank you, Planner DeLeo. I will read no, I won't. I will go to the public hearing, and then we will read the motion. I do apologize, everyone. I have no excuse for that oversight. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present in chambers with us, then we'll turn to remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in chambers or remote, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who'd like to address us on this issue or item? Yes, come right up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Curtis Davis. I am the current president of the North Central Neighborhood Association. This association was founded as the North Central Property Owners Association in 1958. And this was to fight an Arbor renewal plan that would have displaced more than 500 families, and 400 of them being black families. It later led to the opposition and to the destructive Packard and Beeks bypass project. And under longtime President Letty Whitcliffe, the association worked with mayors, city council members, and the planning commission, and U of M professor James Chaffers, architecture design team, and joining many hands, a neighborhood developed master plan accelerated the revitalization of the boarded up train station into the Gandy Dancer, the removal of a long-standing junkyard, and the co-designing of what is now Wheeler Park, the establishment of Casey's Tavern, and the hilltop development of Wycliffe Place. These legacy seeds have served to nurture a vibrant, inclusive, and forward-looking community, one where, in Professor Chaffers' words, everyone is welcomed. With this submission, we want to stress that we are not expecting the city to drastically alter the site plans for 700 North Main Street. We do note, however, that the proposed construction height of 75 feet for this project is an anomaly based on the steep drop in elevation occurring in that location. And should this building height set a precedent, many parts of the Carytown residential neighborhood would be adversely affected. And since the current building height limit in the residential neighborhood is 3 stories, a more appropriate approach would be allowing only modest building height increases in a case-by-case basis. We encourage the Planning Commission to take this into account when they review future development projects on North 4th and North 5th Avenue. It is important also to remember that the local architect, Peter Pollack, said about the difference between the downtown area in which buildings dominate our near downtown neighborhood featuring small yards, vernacular houses under a canopy of mature private and urban and public trees. Urban planning should not ignore or minimize the importance of a tree canopy that provides shade, clean air, and noise reduction from the downtown urban area. These features are critical for the ecological health of the city of Ann Arbor. And I might just add that the area in Ward 1 in Carytown is the ideal area for mixed use. It is an attractive area that most individuals want to live in.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Is there anyone else in chambers who'd like to address us on this item? Manager Kelly, do we have remote participants?
There's currently one hand raised. Adam Juskevich, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, Adam Juskevich here, 1430 Las Vegas Drive. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this is that we're seeing developers proposing things that are, they're stepping back from kind of the very high end of the market and proposing some smaller units. And I think this is exactly what we expect to see as we have more housing supply in our city, that some of these buildings are, we're seeing more supply come online, and we're seeing softening of rents. And I think this is great. This is exactly what we want to see with providing more housing in the city. I think that mid-rise developments kind of on the edge of a downtown are what we would like to see. I do think that as we get further away from Main Street, it's probably appropriate to step those down, but right on Main Street, I think that this is an appropriate development. So I encourage you to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no further hands raised, Mr. Chair.
I shall close the public hearing and read the proposed motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission recommends that the mayor and city council approve the rezoning of 700 North Main Street from R4C multi-family dwelling to R4E multi-family dwelling with conditions, adopting and incorporating a conditional zoning statement of conditions and the near north area plan for future development of multi-family residential use, moved by Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Commissioner Lee. We're in discussion. Who would like to kick us off? We'll start with Commissioner Norton.
Just a question for staff. This is a little bit nerdy. I'm still trying to figure out why the floodplain would be getting smaller and even smaller than the floodway. And I'm looking at the image that the petitioner put on, and I'm thinking maybe that's because the floodway...
I'm sorry, Commissioner Norton, can you please speak into your mic?
Sorry. I'm looking at the map that the petitioner prepared for, showing us the location of the floodway and the floodplain. The floodplain is typically larger than the floodway. The floodway is where there's moving water, but here the floodplain would shrink to be smaller than the floodway. Is that because the floodway is in the pipe under the ground? Is that what's going on? I'm just trying to figure out.
It also has something to do, and I can follow up with our floodplain coordinator, Melissa Menery. It has something to do with one of them is just mapped. It's on the map. And the other is based on elevation. And there are specific procedures for remapping each one of them. And I think that only one of them is being done. And then beyond that, I would have to follow up.
Oh, so maybe it's just that
I would have to follow up with the
map
floodplain
amendments
coordinator.
just getting caught up with what the changes they made.
Yeah, they don't have additional information on the floodway right now, but that floodplain, that's an elevation that follows a contour all the way around.
Okay, and that's being changed because they opened up.
Right.
They opened up a bit.
The pressure on the
Right,
floodplain.
okay, I got it.
And that floodway is going to move down that hill just a little bit.
It will eventually be remapped.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Adams.
So I understand this is another straight rezoning request. There's an area plan, but we're not approving that tonight. We're just in a rezoning posture. So the same analysis as before would apply. Changing conditions, this whole corridor, and I think even several parcels adjacent to this are changing. I've been waiting for this parcel to change for some time. 123 West Summit is kind of kitty corner. That's an Ann Arbor Housing Commission owned site. That's standing ready to be developed. 721 North Main Street. That's a blighted property across the street that the city is exploring how to remediate and redevelop. The comp plan that we just passed recommends upzoning for this parcel. This rezoning request is consistent with that. And this rezoning enables the construction of high-density housing right along a transit corridor where we have traffic congestion every single day going in and out of town. So I support.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Weatherby, then Commissioner Dish.
Yeah, I realize this is just a rezoning, so this is a little premature, but this to me right now is the worst case scenario where there used to be housing, the housing was removed, and then there's been nothing for a really long time, more than a decade. And so I am happy to approve anything that will get more housing back there because, as our commenter said, it's a great place to live. There's so much there, and there's parks, and there's restaurants, and there's great people, and it's having it be empty and those houses gone is really the worst case scenario. So hopefully we can have more building and more people who can live there and enjoy it just like all the people who do live there. And I think I'm hoping it gets built. I'm hoping something gets built. I've seen a lot of these go through and nothing's been built. So hopefully this one's the charm.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherby. Councilmember Dish.
Yeah, I don't think that it is inappropriate to address concerns about how a project will affect the surrounding neighborhood when folks who come and comment bring that up, even though obviously we don't want to be talking about pictures as if they were site plans, because that's not what they are. But I think it's good to respond as much as we can to concerns that people raise. Well, no concerns that I understand have been raised about this project. I really appreciated the history of the Northeast Area Association? North Central, thank you. I should know that. You are my ward. I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing your remarks, so that I have definitely read about the project that was opposed, and I thought you put so wonderfully what a vibrant part of town that area is. So if I'm understanding, I heard a concern that this project would set a precedent. And it's really the comp plan that will determine what happens in that area. So this one particular rezoning isn't going to drive further decisions, but there definitely is a force that's driving decisions, and I know that neighbors have concerns about that. In my view, there was a proposed project for this site, which would have brought, as Mr. Juskevich said, more of what we have seen a lot of, which is housing that's not very economically accessible. And so this rezoning facilitates housing that will be more accessible to a wider range of people. And so I'm feeling like I am getting an A or B choice. There was one thing that was approved, and now there's another thing that is proposed, and that seems way more consistent with what I'm hearing a lot of voices in the community asking for, and that it's just great to have a few developers showing that it can be done, because I hear a lot about how difficult it is to achieve this kind of housing at construction costs being what they are and land costs being what they are. So I think this is an example. I hope it, in a way, I hope it does set a precedent, at least for aiming for missing middle housing. So I support this rezoning, and I think that we have had a very good explanation of the zoning is clearly necessary to achieve the proposed increase in density, which is desirable, which fits in with recent projects in the neighborhood and is not out of scale with projects in Carytown, which are adjacent. It will be advantageous to the city to have more people living in a place with great walkability. And of course, this particular location more than meets the convenience and service requirements of potential users and occupants. It's one of the best places to live in this city, and I am glad it is in Ward 1. The question that I have, I know is going to be raised by someone else, and so I'm going to allow that to happen.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Other commissioners? Commissioner Mills.
I feel like there's something that I may be raising, or maybe this is something that she was referring to. Okay, great, awesome. I was like, I don't know what what I was going to say. No, I do. I think the way that you put this, Commissioner Dish, about having the A/B choice. I was on Planning Commission when we talked about the site for the the site plan that was already approved, and again, we don't know we don't have a building. We see some rendering, but there's lots of things that can change. As with the previous proposal, once something is rezoned, there are, so long as you are within the requirements, that is something that you're allowed to do. So I often think about what could be built based on the zoning classification and, again, what those setbacks are. I think the fact that there is a condition that is willingly offered by the developer for a height limit is appropriate, because I don't think that we've had to, this is transition. It's surrounded by transition. Actually, all of that Carytown area is transition. It's not residential. So I was looking to the comp plan to see what we said, and it is between low and high rise to transition. Let's see, what did I do? When adjacent to established residential and hub categories, but this is actually surrounded by transition categories. And so I don't think it's setting a precedent, because actually, this is my comment to staff, is at some point soon, we will be reconsidering all of the zoning in transition. Rezoning this tonight will stick for this until that time, but there's nothing, I mean, would we imagine that when we rezone, parcels that have conditions on them, or even those that may be the PUD, make your own zoning district kind of thing, there's not a stipulation or a reason to not rezone those to whatever we decide ought to be the transition category. Is that right?
Well, I will answer this way. We have the legislative ability to change the zoning map. By we, I mean the Planning Commission is a recommending body, and the City Council makes those ordinance amendments. The zoning map is a part of the zoning ordinance, the Chapter 55. We do not have to, when talking about a rezoning and a widespread rezoning, we don't have to maintain existing PUDs or conditional zoning districts. We can choose to, because that is our legislative prerogative. I think when the time comes, we might analyze each one on a case-by-case basis to see if we would like to keep it. But I can't yet answer your question about there's no reason to or not to. I can just clarify that we can, and we don't have to, and we will cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay, super. Because one of the things that's in my mind is, should it be a D district instead, right? Like a D2 kind of thing, which maybe in terms of uses are more in keeping with what is imagined in transition, or at least, right, that it's more mixed use than what an R category is. So I don't think that this is precedent setting, because I don't think that this would be carried on in a lot of transition, which either gives comfort or discomfort. I recognize, these are a lot of the conversations that we'll have here. I think that this one is appropriate for this particular site, for this rezoning, for all of the reasons that colleagues mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you. This was sort of picking up off of I was going to ask a very similar question that you asked of staff, and I just want to make sure that I understand now what Ms. DeLeo's answer means. So, say we rezone this, we recommend rezoning tonight, and then in, 3 months. Oh. I know. And then in a number of months, we look at the transition zoning category, and we're sort of looking. So is what you said, we could leave this as R4E? But that's a choice instead of just sort of trying to streamline everything. So we could have parcels throughout the city that are remnants of these current, soon-to-be old zoning categories.
I don't think I would recommend that.
But it's a choice, is what you're saying.
But it is a choice.
Okay.
Speaking to that, very briefly speaking to that issue, I think that for a conditional zoning where it's a height restriction or something of that nature, whatever new zoning is in place would probably take care of that issue. If it's a PUD with a very specific mix of uses or a very specific development requirement, maybe we would want to keep that because that's extra special and that would not be covered by the district. So that's when I say we can I'm not saying we should or could, but that's why I also say case-by-case basis. It sort of depends on what are the conditions, what is the underlying district, and what are the benefits that that was giving us, and would that be replicated or not?
Because my question was going to be, before you said that and blew my mind, we rezone this, or we recommend rezoning. We eventually rezone it as however we decide transition is going to be, and say, I don't, and again, I don't know how we're doing this with the heights and everything, but say all of a sudden, what we would recommend for this parcel would be 65 feet instead of 75 feet. Would it just become non-conforming, and then in the future? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Hammersmith. Commissioner Lee, do you have a comment? You don't have to have one. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for your comments from the North Central Association. Really appreciate it. Our evaluation is on those 6 points that we talked about, the extent to which the rezoning request is necessary. From what I'm seeing is this plan is changing from 21 larger units to 64, and that in order for that to actually occur, this R4E would be required, just based on the dwelling units required per size. So I do think that in order to fulfill their program and the overall housing needs of the community, it is something that is necessary. I think the question is on that second point, the rezoning affecting public welfare property rights of persons located in the vicinity in the following ways. I take a look at this and I'm thinking of even shadow casting, right, 75 feet. And I can certainly understand why it's going to be a cast concrete base with wood frame construction on top. I can understand why the ask is what it is. If you think about it, the sun's rising in the east, mostly casting shadows towards the, I'm thinking of at what point is there really kind of a shadow casting sunlight impact, especially during winter months. It's when the sun is the lowest, so it's going to cast larger shadows. And to me, because this is specifically on the main street corridor, that's the one where I think actually centrality and densification towards these major corridors and thoroughfares make more sense. I do have a question for staff, and that has to do with this concept of this setting a precedent, right? So how would we have to evaluate, let's say that another rezoning petition comes in from an R4C to an R4E with a 75-foot condition, right? Would a previous decision have bearing, or would the context of the parcels be kind of too, I guess, circumstantial or specialized for us to be able to evaluate it totally separately? I guess my question specifically is how real is this idea of setting precedents, and would
I'm not aware, so precedent is not a standard for approving a rezoning.
Yep.
It seems logical that for the same reasons that you would support or recommend approval of one rezoning, you might, if the site is sufficiently close enough, you might find similar reasons. But we are not obligated in any way to further or continue. And we do evaluate rezonings on an individual basis for consistency with the standards of approval, the first one of which is consistency with the comprehensive plan.
Yep. Got it. Thank you, Planner DeLeo. With that, I think my stance is that this rezoning is advantageous to the city. It is delivering 60-plus units, 64 units in excess of the 21 that was proposed. It is really hard to build things right now. Some of the pricings that we're seeing on the construction side just makes it oh gosh, wow, is this really worth taking the risk of going through the construction risk, the actual lease-up risk? And so when things are kind of on that paradigm, and then we have somebody who's willing to expand that to deliver 64 smaller units that are more affordable towards a missing middle, I think this does indeed meet that test of, is this rezoning necessary for this project to occur? Is this advantageous to the city of Ann Arbor? Does this meet convenience and service requirements? So I do think that it does fit the specific standards by which we're required to test it. So for that reason, I am very grateful for you to show up tonight, and we really appreciate your feedback. Given that in the future, we will be looking at other site plans specifically to the same standards, but that it will be separate. Like, we won't be saying, oh, we approved 75 feet in the past. With that kind of thing in mind, I'm inclined to support this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. I think we heard from all the commissioners, so I just have a couple things. And I'll start with staff. Planner DeLeo, when I read 5.11.7 of the Unified Development Code, Section B, Paragraph 4, I just wanted your just comment on the impact that the DDA changed their boundaries recently, and that that section speaks specifically to R4E and being outside the the DDA boundary. So just wanted to flag that to see if that's something that should be revised, updated, or amended now that that map now extends to this location. And you know, you may not have thought about it until just now, but I was just looking at it. But go ahead, you were gonna.
No, I was just going to say thank you for flagging that.
Okay.
We'll have to have a discussion.
Okay. To the petitioner, when we look at your area map that you submitted with this rezoning, you put in a comparison table. The comparison table doesn't have the right zoning that you are requesting. You list on the area map C2B, but I'll use that for my question. And my question specifically starts with parking. On this development data under your proposed on this area map, you're looking at 96 parking spaces. Is that accurate or is that inaccurate?
Yeah, that's, neither that zoning nor that parking count reflect.
Great. That makes me happy. That takes a bulk of my concerns away. What's that? What'd you say? Oh, what? Councilmember Dish has a question for you, Mr. Moore.
You were going to ask.
I mean, I did.
So,
he answered, but
no,
you had a follow-up.
That isn't the parking count, but what is the parking count?
So we currently have 64 units and 60, so it's a 0.93 ratio.
Okay, and all of that parking's going to be in the floodway, so...
None of it's in the floodway.
It's in the...
The door to the lowest level of the garage is in the floodplain, but the floodplain does not go into the garage in any depth.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll see that more clearly when it comes back, should everything move forward. And then I'm going to be slightly different than my colleagues about height. R4E has no height limit. Why the 75-foot? Other than you get the space that you do need to achieve the 64. This zoning allows for 75 units. Why aren't you proposing 75 instead of 64?
The ability to afford to build the project, it just gets too expensive if we go another level higher. Then it triggers the high-rise section of the building code, which...
And that's the Michigan Building Code, and that would exceed, but, so you're not going to exceed 55 feet then?
Well, again, that 55-foot is from the place that the ladder truck is going to park up to the walking surface of the highest floor. It's not to the roof.
Okay, so for the public, we're talking about the building code, and certain codes shift when you go over a certain height, and then it requires additional materials, and that increases the cost. So that's the back and forth that we're having now, in case none of you, like me, a few years ago, memorized the building code. All right, so...
And it changes every 3 years.
It does. So you're proposing a maximum height of 75, but you're going to be plus or minus around 55, because if you go above 55, you're going to have the same issues, correct?
So currently, as the building is designed, the main parapet line of the main roof element on the south side, which is the shortest part of the building, because that's where the grade rises, you're looking at about 53 to 54 feet to the parapet from the grade. But on the north side, you're looking at about 69 and a half feet. So no matter where you measure it, you're not getting close to the 75 feet. We just wanted to make sure we have an envelope that if floor-to-floor heights change during construction technology, or the city changes where it measures building height, and we have to go back to measuring the elevator overrides, that we got some fluff room in there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. And so, Mr. Davis, to your comments, this is part of why I'm asking these questions, because if they're proposing a maximum height of 75, but they're not actually building to 75, it's not going to reach that maximum because the economics just don't work for them for the development that they want to put in this place. So you're probably looking at something closer to 55 on one side, and as Mr. Moore said, like 69, but that's from the lowest point to the highest point. And so when you do that measurement, it's going to not be this monstrosity or this very large envelope that is potentially imagined when you hear 75 feet, if I'm understanding everything correctly, and I think I am. Councilmember Dish, and then I'll go back to my comments. No, you have a comment here. It's appropriate. Go ahead.
All right, so I did just want to, since we're in this mode of trying to be transparent tonight, always we are, but right now we're really kind of having a broader discussion than the particular proposal so that we can just talk about things. And I just want to underscore what Mr. Moore just said, and that is that because it will affect probably how transition is treated. And what Mr. Moore said is that at the point at which the high-rise category in the building code is triggered, when I say high-rise, I might think 10 feet, but the building code triggers high-rise at 6.
10 stories.
10 stories? 10, did I say 10 feet?
You did.
Yes. I'm always building fairy houses. Yes.
Yeah, these are hobbit houses that Councilmember Dish.
Right. 10 stories is maybe what I think of when I say high-rise. But what the building code means is 6 stories, 5 to 6 stories. It depends the height of the first one, da-da-da. And so that is a practical limit that will very likely limit the heights that are permitted in transition. And so, again, when we come to rezone this space, I'm only saying very likely, God knows what could change. But again, there are practical limits, and those have to do with physics and building codes. When we come to transition, the height cap on this building we wouldn't let it go higher, nor would it likely want to go higher. Because you have to go way higher to make it financially feasible, and this is not hub. Okay? This is not hub. So the difference between a 6-story and a 7-story building is 1 story, not just 1 foot, but 1 story, and tens of thousands of dollars that don't pencil out because of the expense of the construction. So we're just hearing something that's good tonight. And I think I made it more murky.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. I think I got what I needed from my questions, given the fact that we won't actually get to 75 because it just won't pencil for you. So that helps me understand why you're constrained on the unit count. I see you putting your hand up, Mr. Davis. I'll use the prerogative of the chair just to quickly hear from you. Go ahead. What did you want to?
But
you have to go to the mic very quickly.
But you stated with that rezoning, if he or the developer chose to, he could actually elevate it to much higher levels
Well,
if it wasn't financially.
Well, they're actually putting in so my question, whenever I see housing, and thank you, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So whenever I see housing, especially when they're asking for a zoning that doesn't have a height limit, I want to know why they're adding an artificial height limit. And I know that I differ from my colleague, Commissioner Mills, because every time R4C or R4E comes, Commissioner Mills asks for a height limit because it's like, oh, this could be unlimited. And I'm like, wow, this is wonderful. We have this in our zoning. Let's get some unlimited housing here. But this rezoning, which would follow this land, is a condition of 75 feet for this particular development. If they were to sell it, that gets my question. Would the cap go away because the condition is here? So it's going to follow the land unless a new petitioner comes and asks for a rezoning. So there isn't the possibility for someone to exceed 75 feet here. And given the financial feasibility of the building code, it's also economically not viable for another developer to do it, because the same constraint that this developer has, another developer would also have to just even add an additional story. It wouldn't pencil, or it wouldn't be feasible to be developed, if that makes sense. Okay, I really appreciate you coming, and I really appreciate your comments, and I think it's important to hear from you, especially your social location to this development, your embedded, you and your family's, investment in this community. And I know you spoke during the comp plan, because you left the city and come back, and you're seeing the transformation of the community that you grew up in as it just sort of shifts. And so we appreciate your comments. Any other comments from the commission? With that, Manager Kelly, would you call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Norton.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you, and good luck. All right, that takes us on to 10C, 3785 Varsity Drive. This is a rezoning in an area plan, REZ 250007. A rezoning request for City Council from M1 Limited Industrial to C2B Business Service District. The area plan for a vacant 1.2 acre parcel proposes the construction of 51 bedroom apartments across 2 buildings. The site has floodway and floodplain on the southern portion of the site. This is in Ward 4. Staff recommendation is approval. And so as we shift all the planners around, I just want to make sure you three know, are you staying to make a comment at the end? Okay, great. Perfect. We will, once planner or Manager Kelly gets all this set up, we'll hear first from the petitioner, then from Planner Bennett, then we'll have another public hearing, and then the commission will have its discussion. Oh, hello again. Double duty.
Yeah. Okay. We would like to, well, first let's go through our citizens partition meeting. We had one person showed up, Tony DeMiglio. He was very nice. We chatted for like a half hour. We had a traffic study done. There was 14 AM peak hour trips and 23 PM peak hour trips. Those are below the city's threshold of 50, and then so the multimodal transportation analysis isn't required. What makes this site great is the large amount of residentially zoned property adjacent to this property. It's Pheasant Run Apartments is right next door. And the gentleman that was at my citizens partition I'm so dry. Citizens participation meeting, he walks through our site to go to work because he works near the Mitsubishi research facility. The transition, let's see, oh yeah, you can see my cursor right there. That is where the property is in the transition zoning. And this transition wants to see a flexible mixed-use category that accommodates residential, commercial, and industrial employment uses. It supports a variety of building types, near transit to entrance walkability, to enhance walkability, increase transit use, and strengthen commercial activity among key corridors. This, on the bottom there, that 318 West Liberty, that's almost exactly the kind of building we're going to build, parking underneath and 3 stories. This apartment complex is right up from, oh yeah, there we go. Right up from, there's a bus stop right there. I skipped this one. Large technology firms giving way to smaller firms and retail as you get closer to Ellsworth. The proposed residents could live and work here, and high-tech jobs to smaller jobs down in these buildings here. These are all building small businesses like Colony Hardware, Jiu-Jitsu Studio, Fathom Plumbing Solutions, and then we went through that. And right here is about the size of the building that we would like to build. We're in the transition area. Here is a picture of the site. We have a sidewalk, 2 buildings. There's 50 1 and 2 bedrooms, or was it 51 bedrooms? And we got parking all the way along, and then parking underneath the first floor, or parking in the first floor. And that does it. That's my presentation. I look forward to answering any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. We'll now turn to Planner Michelle Bennett for a staff presentation. Welcome, Planner Bennett.
Good evening. So 3785 Varsity Drive is what we'll be discussing tonight. It is about a 1.26 acre parcel. It's currently zoned M1, which is limited industrial. This site is surrounded on 3 sides by M1 zoning. It does touch R4B on the eastern side, the apartments that our petitioner mentioned. It would be about 2 buildings, 50 one-bedroom apartments spread across 2 buildings, about 40,000 square feet, 55 parking spaces. This is a request to rezone to C2B. And the petitioner and I have discussed this a little about what would be, something suitable here, considering this is sort of our first foray into rezoning areas with our new comp plan, where we have transition that is historically always been industrial, and now we are trying to diversify the uses in this area. So it led to a lot of discussion among staff, but you can see that we ultimately recommend approval for them, with some of my longer comments about them towards the end if we'd like to discuss. But in general, I do think it complies with transition in the sense that it is close to the AAATA bus route 6A on Ellsworth corridor, which is in the RIDE's 2045 plan to be a priority service route. The petitioner also would be required through site plan, if you were to continue on that route, to build a sidewalk so we can help build the multimodal network that transition kind of, is going for. But it would contribute to mixed uses, and it would be mid-rise, and those are kind of the 3 wonky words for transition: is mixed use, mid-rise, multimodal. And so for those reasons, we recommend approval. Touching quickly on the natural features, there is a floodway and a floodplain on this site, on the southern part of this site, so that would have to be respected, and that is why the development is sort of taking place on the northern side, along with the parking. So yes, we recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. We will now go to the public hearing. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us in chambers, then remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone or by name if on Zoom. You'll hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in chambers or online, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak on this item? Manager Kelly, do we have remote participants?
Adam Juskevitz, you have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission.
Hi, Adam Juskevich here, 1430 Las Vegas Drive. I actually worked in this area on Varsity Drive, actually, though, on the other side of Ellsworth, probably like 20 years ago. So I'm somewhat familiar with the area. I think this particular development, adding more housing in this area, would be great. I totally support that. I do have some concerns around transportation access as is concerned with pedestrians. I think it's interesting to hear from the petitioner that there's somebody from the Pheasant Run community that's kind of informally cutting through this area to get to work. I think it would be great if once we see a site plan, if we can see some kind of a pedestrian connection through to Pheasant Run to formalize that access. I don't think there's anything that you can really do with this rezoning to require that or anything, but it would really be great to see. Also, there was mention from Planner Bennett that the petitioner would be required to build sidewalks. I assume that would be along the frontage of the particular parcel for this rezoning. I think that would still leave a sidewalk gap between this property and Ellsworth, which is where the nearest bus route is. I think that's the 6A, maybe, that would get them into downtown. And so I guess this is all kind of stuff that's outside of the scope of the rezoning, but definitely concerns with transportation access for pedestrians within this particular part of the city. And yeah, I don't know how exactly we address that, because I believe, again, that it's outside of the scope of a rezoning of one particular parcel. So, yeah, just some concerns that I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other hands raised.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. I'll close the public hearing and read the motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission recommends that the mayor and city council approve the rezoning and area plan of 3785 Varsity Drive from M1 Limited Industrial District to C2B Business Service District. Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Commissioner Weatherby. We are in discussion. Who would like to kick us off? Commissioner Norton.
I have a question for staff. For the other projects we were looking at, as in all of these other projects, there's not a specific proposal on it in terms of developing the site. This is just a rezoning, correct?
This is a rezoning and area plan.
An area plan. How constrained will they be to this particular development that they're showing us? Or in other words, could they come in and say, we're going to build something much bigger than what we wanted to when we came and talked to you?
In order to develop the site, they would need to still go through this site plan process. So it would come back.
But they would be allowed by right to build something much bigger,
They would be allowed to build what's allowed in C2B.
which is
In C2B, if
It's
you
like
look,
4
there's a
stories, I think.
table
4
here.
stories? Okay.
Yeah, 4 stories.
4 stories, okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
they-
it's
and they
smaller
will-
than office.
And they'll be constrained by the site conditions. There's the floodplain and such. So really, they wouldn't be able to build much more than what they're showing us, even though there's not a particular project in front of us right now, given the site constraints and the zoning. I'm trying to get a beat on that.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, but with the other projects that we considered, even though we've not considered specific projects, you couldn't build much more than what we considered, given the site constraints in the zoning. The same thing is happening here. I'm trying to make sure that's what I'm following.
Yeah, as long as they follow the dimensional standards in C2B, and then to develop, they'd have to adhere to our standards
Those
for
standards.
for floodplain, right? That's the other major constraint on where they can
Yep,
build.
Yep. Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Commissioner Lee.
Overall, I support this rezoning. The only hesitation I actually have has to do with the etymology of C2B as the business service district. It says, designed to provide for certain types of commercial activities that have functional and economic relationships, a downtown core or downtown interface commercial district. I know it's like, I understand what's occurring. It's just a slightly like, hey, we think this zone fits and it makes sense, but it doesn't fit the actual qualitative description under which C2B is assigned under the UDC. That's my only hesitation. I understand the intent. It's noted as transition, so I'm inclined to be, it's that qualitative conflict of what's currently prescribed in the UDC. So staff, help me to resolve that, and how would you explain that?
Sure. So we did discuss some other potential zones, some of which did not necessarily fit. Some of the residential zones did not fit the kind of density they want to achieve. Secondly, because this is in transition, which is meant to be mixed use, this is a district that would permit things. So even if they didn't want to, or in the future, didn't, like, say they built residential, but in the future it could be turned into something else. Like, it's the more flexible option, I thought, fit the best under transition, right? So transition is super, super broad. And we currently, until we flesh out exactly what that means, we are filling in with what we currently have.
Even if there is, again,
discrepancy in the intent.
Or in the qualitative description. Making do with what we got. Okay, got it. Thank you. I need to think on this just a little bit more. Thanks.
We'll go to Weatherby, then Dish.
I think Dish was first.
I'm sorry, Dish, then Weatherby.
All right, she's ceding her spot to me.
All right, Weatherby, then Dish.
This, to me, was a really interesting one because at first, I think, knowing that area somewhat, it was like, wow, that's interesting. But then when you look at it, like, this would be an awesome place to live. I mean, the pot smoke might be a problem. That is that is a known thing that people don't like. But, you got Zingerman's right there, you got a pot shop, you got, I mean, that's a pretty good combination right there. You've got, gift stores, you've got exercise place, you've got a hardware store. Like when we look at what the options are in a mixed-use area, this to me is like, wow, this actually is a really great spot for more housing. And so, there's a lot of places to work, there's places to shop, there's places, and it's not our traditional downtown, and it's not what we've normally thought of, but to me, it is what when we look at the comp plan and we think of transition and sort of what the options are in transition, like, this is kind of a cool spot, and it's opened up, the idea of this has opened up some interesting visions for me of like what could happen in a place that is not sort of the stereotypical what we think of when we think of residential, or that we think of when we think of commercial. And I think it's really interesting and kind of a cool spot. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherby. Councilmember Dish.
So that was such a great glass half full account. And I want to call attention to a sentence in the staff report that felt like glass half empty. And so normally when we consider these, we're thinking about what will the impact of this new thing be on the existing neighbors. But in this case, I think we're thinking about what will be the effect of the existing uses on this new thing. And it is written in the staff report, the shift, as evidenced by this site, is that housing would now be permitted where there is not a complete sidewalk network, which I do want to talk about, where neighbors with large surface parking lots receive deliveries from semi-trucks, which seems a little less fun than Zingerman's. But also,
I mean, I live by the stadium, so.
Yeah, right, but not terrible. So, I mean, I noted that, felt like it was gently calling attention to, yes, and then, yes. However, staff acknowledges, yes, its proximity to jobs and a bus line, and that it has the potential to be connected to adjacent residential development. So absolutely, it just does put us in an unusual position of considering the impact of the existing uses on this thing. But I think it's, again, yeah, you're right, it's blazing a trail that could be extremely attractive. I just had I didn't quite know what to make about the statements about connectivity and in the report, because I'm not sure how the things that need to come about in order for this to be best connected are going to come about. And Mr. Juszkiewicz raised one thing about how can people get to buses, which I don't think is called out here. But what is called out here is the city's transportation review recommended conditional approval of the proposed rezoning contingent upon the understanding that safe, continuous, accessible pedestrian facility connections to Ellsworth Road and cross-site to the east will be required features of any future site plan. So that's, I guess what they're saying is, don't bring us a site plan that doesn't have those things. And so the developer's factoring in the cost of those things and not thinking that the city will provide them.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's just a sentence that leaves me hanging a tiny bit. The area plan does not indicate a connection to the residential development on Partridge Path through an easement.
Correct, but that is addressed in the bullet point you just read above, which is that the transportation planners said that they would request a cross site to the east would be required. So that would be to the residential development to the east.
Great. So perfect.
But it currently does not show that in the area plan.
So what you're saying is that this requirement, which has been flagged and will actually happen, is just not indicated on the area plan, but it will be. So great, thank you.
Commissioner Mills.
I think the analysis about what the comp plan calls for and the fact that this seems like a form that would fit along, like in terms of scale with what could fit there, I think is right on. I think the question that I have, and particularly when you drew our attention to the glass half empty kind of sentence, is that we do have things in this city right now that require deliveries by semi-trucks. And I think about the businesses that have built up in some of these M districts, or like in our M districts, and right now, obviously, this is a vacant parcel. I mean, as best I can tell, right? I think it's vacant, yes, because person's walking across it. I don't like vacancy, and so I think filling in vacancy makes a lot of sense. And I would worry if some of those things that are around there, some of those uses, the Zingerman's mail order, go away. They're not in this city anymore, because if it's difficult for them to do things with, like, make their deliveries with their semi-trucks. So that is the thing that I think we should be weighing. And we had this discussion when we were coming up with the comp plan. This totally makes sense now. And I think we ought to not outlaw the things that are already in there as we're thinking about what this district looks like in rezoning. I think it's so interesting, actually, tonight that we have seen two very different kinds of developments, both in transition, and the kind of existing land use patterns that they're going into and what that means for what it's going to look like when we take up the transition district.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Any other commissioners? I just wanted to come back to the C2B. So I've been looking at office because I know office permits multifamily, but I assume the minimum space requirements was one of the reasons why office got eliminated, because it requires 55% open space.
I believe so, yeah, because there's already constraints with the
Right, with the site itself and the floodplain. So of our existing zoning districts or zones, without going to a PUD, C2B was the best possible option in spite of its purpose statement not being fulfilled in this place.
based on my assessment.
Okay. All right. That was it for me. Anyone else? Manager Kelly, would you please call the roll?
On the motion as presented, Norton.
Yes.
Adams.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you and good luck. That takes us to 11A, other business. There is none. And now we come to item number 12, public comment. This is the second opportunity for individuals to speak up for 3 minutes on any issue. We'll first hear from those of you who are present with us in chambers, then turn to remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature if on Zoom. For phone access, dial 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name if on Zoom. You will hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in chambers or online, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present in chambers who'd like to address us? Come right up. And thanks for staying to the very end.
Yeah. Do I have to announce myself again?
You do.
Okay, Brian Alvarez, 215 South Wagner Road.
Thank you.
I just have to express disappointment and then my concern. So the notification that was sent out by the city was not represented accurately on the flyers, which I have a copy of here. There are actually 2 parcels of land that are not the parcels of land. One of them is, but the other property is not in discussion. So it caused a lot of confusion in our neighborhood as to what was going on and what was being addressed at this meeting. But I think my concerns are not in the scope of this this session and what you guys are looking at. I think my concerns are, trapping vulnerable homeowners who have a cap limit of 10% to resell the home, and these homes are going right back to the property owners or the land trust. So this it's kind of a false idea that you're empowering or giving people the power to own a home. That's not the case. They're not going to be able to profit. And the ethical concerns around Doug Selby and his association being on the board of the financial advisors and also profiting personally from this sale. So I have these ethical concerns. That is not in the scope of, I think, what is being discussed today. And lastly, I'll just mention this, and then I'll ask my last question. This community meeting was. It was annotated and it was delivered. We asked for a copy of it. We have it here. These are very grossly misrepresented characteristics of how that meeting went. And there's some outright lies in here. So I'm concerned about the efficacy of this program moving forward. Obviously, I don't want this to happen, especially hearing that I have the potential of getting 16 new neighbors, which I am sure the city is looking forward to getting affordable housing. I just think that this is a greedy proposition from a land trust that, that is preying on the desire to make affordable housing. So that is my ethical concern. Where do I voice these ethical concerns in a space that can be taken seriously? Because I encourage anybody to read any of these agreements of these housing projects and say that this is a good deal for the homes, right? I'm not speaking on my behalf because I personally don't want to have these houses. I'm speaking on the behalf of the vulnerable families that we're going to be letting into these houses. I was those vulnerable families. So I have ethical concerns. I don't know, this is obviously not the spot, but I do want to see who's in charge of being responsible. And looking at and judging how you sent out these flyers to us, it just shows that this is poorly managed and not taken seriously. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez.
There are no virtual hands raised.
All right. I will go ahead and close the public comment. And now that brings us to commission proposed business. Is there any? We'll start with Commissioner Adams, then Dish, and then myself if they don't cover what I have in mind. We'll start with you, Commissioner Adams.
So I did have some commission proposed business. I don't think I do. I spoke with Mr. Leonard earlier today, and he's going to add the comp plan execution to the agenda for the 19th. He's not bumping the city attorney presentation on SEUs. I think that puts us in a bind time-wise. I'm not sure what to do about that. The concern that I have is that the next full meeting after the 19th will be in June. So we will have, at that point, the comp plan passed, I think, on the 16th of March. We will be into June before we can finalize execution. I'd really like for that not to happen, but we kind of are where we are.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Councilmember Dish.
I would like to propose that we somehow have a conversation or discussion about how to facilitate cooperative housing. I know that we've had many of these offstage, but maybe a work session. There's a lot of interest in it. We keep hearing about it. I mean, we keep hearing from the same organization, and maybe a work session would be appropriate, given that it is in the comp plan, and a discussion at the table with community members might help jumpstart some consideration in the comp plan. Not urgent, however.
Manager Kelly, when you're ready, if you look up, I will go, but I can wait for you to finish typing. I appreciate that. So I also noted in the staff presentation that there were inaccuracies in the image that was sent out. So in our packet, the first image shows the two properties, but with a property in between, and then the zoomed in shows them side by side. And I know that the developer presents the card, and the city is the entity that provides the addresses, but the city is not responsible per se for what the developer sends out, so that they approve it. Okay, so that is a question for us to maybe look at, because I think Mr. Alvarez's comment is valid in that aspect, that it was somewhat misleading just in those two area photos. I think it was resolved in the packet, but if the postcard is what went out, it showed it incorrectly. So what is the recourse, if any, there?
I don't have the benefit of Ms. Moline Corcoran, who previewed the materials. You're correct that the postcard does go out by the developer, the petitioner. However, staff do a review for the primary elements that are required to be a part of advertising a community participation meeting. Sometimes something's proposed and it shifts later throughout the site plan or rezoning process. In the case of some of the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust petitions, I can't remember if it was the one that was just approved by council last night or this one, because there has been quite an extensive back and forth with that petitioner. They have started with a concept and it has shifted because of feasibility or land divisions possible based on access, et cetera. But if the concept remains primarily intact, which is a rezoning, and the location is primarily intact and everything was advertised conceptually in good faith, I don't think that there is a huge problem there. And we have encountered this because the point is to get that feedback. Now, would the feedback have been so different if there had been a third parcel, or if and if it didn't shift? Projects do shift all the time. There are details that change in unit count, stories, parking spaces. These are the types of things that neighbors usually want to comment on, like parking. What is it? You have petitions that sometimes right here at the dais will commit to changes to a site plan. Now, was that advertised in the community participation meeting? No. So we can't always envision how a project will evolve. I think that I would have to dig into the particular details of these maps to see if there is something truly preventable. I'm not sure without looking at that, but I can do a debrief with staff tomorrow.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. And then on Mr. Alvarez's last question about where he might voice his concerns, my thought would be directly with the petitioner or their board. This wouldn't be in the purview of the Economic Development Office.
So I would submit to you, Mr. Alvarez, that you're not in the wrong place, but there may be many right places to be. So I think the more that you connect with people who might share your opinion and express that in different forums, the more traction you're going to get. The Planning Commission is one location, and in the instance of this petition, of course, it's a recommendation to City Council. So there are still two public hearings right in this same room that will be advertised at a future date. Since you are so close to the properties, you will almost certainly be within the required notification radius by the city clerk for those upcoming petitions. And I think that coming with other neighbors who share your concerns would be a good way to express to the city council that you're not alone. Of course, the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust has a board. Presumably they have board meetings. Those might be open. They may have their own opportunities to weigh in and have conversations. I know that they've held many community open houses outside of their particular petitions, which are opportunities to chat about, I would say this is a key discrepancy for people who support or don't support community land trusts is the equity and whether or not that's a good or bad idea. The petitioner thinks that it is a good idea. Some people disagree, but I would say there are many forums to engage directly with the petitioner. Sarah Lawrence is the primary contact, and that should be on engage.a2gov.org, her contact information. But if it's not, I'm happy to give it to you after the meeting.
And then one other question. The city doesn't have an ombudsperson to receive concerns like this that would fit that role, correct?
Not that I'm aware of. I think in this case, the Planning Commission packet puts comments on public records. This comment will be recorded in the minutes in summarized fashion. All of our meetings are recorded. So those things put comments on public record in terms of how an ombudsperson could become involved in something that has statutory public hearings, et cetera, the best place is the public hearing and the forum where that decision is being made, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you for indulging me. I just want to make sure that as we were hearing your closing comment, that we have an exhaustive sort of response, because oftentimes people come and don't know how to navigate the system. And so some of the questions that you raised help us sort of daylight where the best channels were. Councilmember Dish.
I had the thought that because this is a housing TIF project, and I think that there is probably not a lot of knowledge in the community about how this kind of TIF works, or even the normal kind that we're used to, the brownfield TIF. It is quite possible that Mr. Giant in the Economic Development Office would be happy to speak to you or a group of you about your questions about whether this is a good deal for the city. I think he may not have a developed opinion about whether it's a good deal for the people who participate, because as Mix Kelly suggested, there are trade-offs, but he might be willing to even speak broadly about that. You can write to him. It would be jgiant@a2gov.org. So J Giant, just like the Jolly Green. Only, yeah, like it's J.
J, the letter J.
Yes. And he really likes my 10-foot high rises, though you all don't. So you can reach out to him. You can also reach out to me if you want me to help you contact him. You can do it yourself, but if you wanted help with that.
Great. Anyone else with commission proposed business? With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Lee, seconded by Commissioner Mills. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.